You are 9 years old, standing in the fluorescent glow of a Blockbuster video on a Friday night in 2001. You are holding a plastic VHS case, meticulously mediating a screaming argument between your younger siblings over what to rent, while mentally calculating if your parents can afford the $1.99 late fee from last week. Without being asked, you quietly put your own movie back on the shelf and persuade your sibling to compromise, instantly absorbing the friction in the room. You have been doing this invisible emotional math your entire life. This is the psychological reality of the eldest sibling. It is a deeply ingrained neuroprofile that goes far beyond simply being born first. Back in the 1920s, psychotherapist Alfred Adler first identified this exact phenomenon when he coined the term the dethroned child. Later, evolutionary psychologists like Dr. Frank Sulloway validated this in landmark research, proving that being the oldest isn't just a familial role you play. It is a fundamental rewiring of your developing brain. You are the family's shock absorber. While your younger siblings got the privilege of simply existing, you had to learn how to actively read the atmospheric pressure of the house. You scanned your parents' faces the exact second they walked through the door to determine if it was a safe night or a dangerous night. Think back to those formative years. Before the younger ones arrived, you were the undisputed center of the universe. Then, overnight, the entire world shifted. It was 1998. You were sitting at the family computer, a translucent blue iMac G3, trying to log into AOL Instant Messenger. But your mom was holding a crying baby and pleading with you to watch your toddler brother so she could just take a 5-minute shower in peace. You were only 7 years old, but you were instantly promoted to middle management. By the time it was 2004, you had become a tiny, highly stressed adult. You were the one mentally tracking the permission slips, the lunch money, and exactly how many rollover minutes were left on the family's shared singular wireless plan. You lost your childhood before you ever hit puberty. I know you know exactly what I mean. If you are the oldest, I guarantee you have a highly specific memory of sitting in the back of a Plymouth Voyager minivan, desperately trying to keep a dying Tamagotchi alive, while quietly talking a younger sibling out of a tantrum so your dad wouldn't start yelling from the driver's seat. You were the designated translator. You stood permanently stationed between the chaotic, messy world of children and the heavily stressed-out world of adults. This is why you still walk into a room today and immediately locate the emotional exits. You do not just see a room full of people. You see a highly delicate ecosystem of moods that might collapse at any given second, and you are holding the invisible clipboard. Keep that invisible clipboard in mind, because it is the exact key to understanding why you are so exhausted right now. Psychologists have a specific clinical term for what happened to you. It is called parentification. First, introduced by psychiatrist Ivan Bazormany-Nagy, parentification means a child is prematurely assigned adult responsibilities that severely overwhelm their developmental age. When this happens, your nervous system literally develops differently than your peers. You experience a massive chronic spike in what neuroscientists call allostatic load. Allostatic load is the physiological wear and tear on your body that comes from chronic low-grade stress and permanent hyper-vigilance. Every single time you anticipated your parents' stress and stepped in to manage your siblings, your developing brain was flooded with cortisol. You were not just being a good helper. Your nervous system was desperately trying to secure your own survival by keeping the family system from collapsing. Let me give you a number that validates everything you have ever felt. 10,000. A comprehensive study from the National Bureau of Economic Research analyzed the lifetime outcomes of firstborns and found a staggering correlation regarding family labor. Firstborns are roughly 30% more likely to become CEOs, managers, and politicians. But they pay a massive psychological tax. Firstborn children spend nearly 10,000 extra hours over the course of their childhood, performing unpaid emotional and physical labor compared to their youngest siblings. A massive 2015 study from Leipzig University, analyzing 20,000 individuals, confirmed this, showing firstborns consistently score higher in intelligence metrics, but suffer from significantly higher rates of clinical anxiety. You did not just have a childhood. You successfully completed a 10-year unpaid internship in extreme crisis management. But there's a very dark side to being the reliable one, a heavy cost that absolutely nobody in your family wants to acknowledge. Because you are so highly competent, everyone around you simply assumes you are fine. You developed a titanium mask of absolute control, which means when you are actually drowning in life, nobody ever thinks to throw you a life preserver. You harbor a quiet, suffocating resentment toward your younger siblings for how effortlessly they move through the world, how they can just ask for money or help without feeling a crushing wave of existential guilt. Yet, at the exact same time, you would furiously destroy anyone who ever tried to hurt them. This is your shadow self. You are permanently trapped in a paradox where you desperately want to be taken care of, but if anyone actually tries to help you, you physically recoil. You reject the help because you genuinely do not know how to be vulnerable. Deep down in your core, you subconsciously believe that if you drop even one ball, if you ever stop being useful, you will immediately stop being loved. You carry an unbearable, invisible weight. When you go on a group vacation, you cannot actually relax until you know for a fact that everyone else is having a good time. You manage the complex logistics. You plan the dinner reservations weeks in advance. You constantly calculate the emotional math of the entire group. I bet if you look at your text messages right now, you are the one sending the long, carefully worded paragraphs to your family group chat to smooth over a conflict, while your youngest sibling just replies with a single thumbs-up emoji. Tell me in the comments if that is exactly your family dynamic right now. It is utterly infuriating to live through, but it is also deeply revealing about the permanent role you were forced into. You might actually need to send this video to that younger sibling, not to make them feel guilty about their childhood, but to finally give them the psychological vocabulary to understand why you are so controlling when it comes to family events, and why you literally cannot just go with the flow. But we need to radically reframe this perceived weakness. Society constantly tells you that you are a control freak who needs to chill out. Your friends, or even your therapist, might have told you that you just need to let go and stop being so rigid. But they are completely missing the magic of what you actually built inside your brain. Your hyper-vigilance is not a character flaw. It is an elite-level psychological superpower. Because you spent your most formative years translating adult problems into child-sized solutions, you developed an unparalleled capacity for high-level systems thinking. You do not just see isolated individual events. You see the entire interconnected matrix of human behavior. You know exactly what a person needs before they even know how to articulate it themselves. That invisible clipboard you carry everywhere you go. It is the exact reason you are the one your friends call at 2 a.m, when their entire lives fall apart. It is the reason you can walk into a highly toxic, chaotic workplace and instantly know exactly how to fix the broken interpersonal dynamics. You read the room better than anyone else alive. You are the emotional architect. When you were young, you did this purely out of fear. You managed your environment so the environment would not unexpectedly crush you. But as an adult, you can actively choose to wield this ability out of immense strength. You possess an incredibly rare, neurological gift for profound empathy that was entirely forged in the fire of premature responsibility. The youngest sibling in your family might have the absolute luxury of being carefree, but you have the irreplaceable power of true vision. You see the world in stunning high definition, while everyone else is perfectly content watching it in standard definition. Let us talk about the specific mechanics of your brain for another second. When you were 10 years old, maybe you accidentally dropped and broke a dinner plate, or you forgot to turn in a single math assignment. For a youngest child, that is a minor forgettable blip. For you, it felt like a catastrophic moral failure that defined your worth. You learned incredibly early on that your mistakes were heavily penalized, simply because you were supposed to know better. You were the unpolished prototype. Your parents were practicing how to raise a human on you. They were stressed. They were probably younger than you are right now, and they unconsciously projected all their own unhealed anxiety directly onto your small shoulders. So you learned how to be perfect. You learned how to expertly read the tiny micro-expressions on your mother's face from across the room. You learned that a specific heavy sigh coming from the kitchen meant you needed to quickly go clean your room without ever being asked. You learned that affection was a transaction, conditional on your immediate usefulness to the family unit. But here is the profound, beautiful pivot in your story. The fact that you survived that intense pressure cooker without losing your fundamental humanity is nothing short of a miracle. Most people who undergo chronic emotional stress in childhood become deeply bitter, highly narcissistic, or they entirely shut down their emotions. You did the exact opposite. You became the guardian. You took the overwhelming chaos of your childhood and you miraculously alchemized it into a profound, fierce competence that protects everyone around you. You are the one who actually remembers the birthdays. You are the one who knows exactly which obscure brand of coffee your coworker likes when they are having a terrible week. You are the one who notices when someone in a loud group is quietly feeling left out, and you subtly, gracefully bring them back into the warmth of the conversation. Do not let anyone minimize that magic. Do not let society tell you that your deep sense of responsibility is just an anxiety disorder acting up. It is leadership. It is profound, quiet, undeniable leadership. Remember that invisible clipboard we talked about at the very beginning of this. The phantom weight you have been holding since you were mediating that Blockbuster video argument in 2001. You do not have to throw it away. You just have to realize that you are finally allowed to set it down for a minute. The family will not spontaneously combust if you decide to take a nap. The world will not suddenly end if you let someone else pick the restaurant for once. You spent your entire childhood being the secure safety net for everybody else in your house. It is time you finally realized that you are allowed to have a safety net. 2. You didn't just survive the unpredictable turbulence of your childhood. You quietly, painstakingly built the exact runway that allowed everyone else in your family to successfully take off. The heavy weight you still carry isn't some tragic burden you were cursed with. It is the undeniable proof that when your world was unpredictable and terrifying, you made the choice to become the steady ground. You have done more than enough. You can finally rest. If this made you feel seen, subscribe. We have a lot more to figure out together.